Hey Grace Fam, Aaron here. Just wanted to share something from the Word of God that was an encouragement to my heart this past month. And it's something that really digs into the heart of what the gospel is all about. The very foundation of our faith. I see that woven into this story all throughout. And so the story we're going to be going through today is the parable of the prodigal son, if you're familiar with it. It's Luke chapter 15. And when we look at parables, we always look at them within their context. A parable is a story told by someone to depict a certain point to the group that it's being told to. So the parable of the prodigal son, we got to look at the context. Who is this parable being told to? And we can see that in verse 1 and 2. And that goes as, in verse 1 it says, "Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to Jesus. And the Pharisees and scribes grumbled, saying, 'This man receives sinners and eats with them.'" All right, so we got Jesus, and then we've got sinners and tax collectors, the religious outcast, hanging out with Jesus. But then now we've got the scribes and Pharisees as well in this, on the outside, looking in, kind of grumbling, saying, "Look at Jesus hanging out with these people." And they would be the religious elite, the religious people. So you've got religious outcast, irreligious, then you've got religious. And Jesus tells the parable in this context to these people around him. The parable begins with a discussion about a father, right? A father and his two sons, the younger of which responds to him in this way: "Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me." And the father divided it among him, indicating that the younger son didn't really care about the father, right? "I don't care about you, Father. All I want is your money. Give me my money so I can get out of here and live my life." And the father does it. And then the younger son, not many days later, the younger had gathered all he had took and journeyed to a faraway country where he squandered his property in reckless living. And so he goes out, lives his life to the fullest in terms of recklessness, and pursues his inner passions and desires throughout the world. But the tale tells us that there's a famine, and because of that famine, the younger son ends up destitute, in a place where he has no food, no shelter, no water, desiring even to eat the food of the pigs. But then in that low moment, he remembers his father, doesn't he? He remembers his father, and that his father's servants are treated better than he's living right now. So he hatches a plan. He says, "All right, I'm dying out here. I'm going to go back to my father and beg him for forgiveness. Father, I've sinned under your name in heaven. I'm going to rehearse this. I'm going to figure it out what I'm going to say, and then I'm going to say it to God, to my father, and hopefully he'll take me back as even a servant." That's his plan. But then when he returns, the response he gets is outlandish from the father. And it's this: "But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants had more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger?'" And so he goes back to his father, and in verse 20 it says, "He arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him, felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son, trying to apologize, he tries to go through his spiel, but the father interrupts him and says," because it doesn't matter to the father, he says this: "But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe, put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.'" And so the father's response is one of pursuit, right? He runs out to the son. He covers him in the robe, covering his shame, covering him, as he enters, and puts the signet family ring on his finger, saying, "Welcome back to the family." The son came expecting to be one of his father's servants, but then he's accepted in as a full-fledged son once again. And the father celebrates his return. But the story doesn't end there. We see that there's an older brother, right? The older brother comes back from the field and hears about the younger brother returning and this celebration coming back for the younger brother. And you'd think an older brother would respond with joy, right? Like, oh, well, we thought he was dead, but he's back and alive. Great. But he actually doesn't. His response is in stark contrast to that. It says, but he was angry and refused to go in. I'm not going into that party. I'm not celebrating with you guys. And his father came out and entreated him. But he answered his father, look, these many years I have served you. I've never disobeyed your command, yet you never even gave me a young goat that I might celebrate with my friends. But this son of yours came, who has devoured your property and with prostitutes, and you killed the fattened calf for him? And the father says to the son, son, you're always with me, and all that is mine is yours. It was fitting to celebrate and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. And so, considering this story, think about how it may have impacted, now looking from the parable out, how would it impact the audience that Jesus is talking to? The people who are religious outcasts would surely relate to the younger brother, right? So you're telling me that if I come to God, He'll accept me? There's grace for me too? There's forgiveness for someone like me? Then you've got the older brother, right? Which would probably parallel with the Pharisees. Looking at this from the outside in, frustrated about the situation. Both of which, in the parable, not having a relationship with the father, right? We see the younger son doesn't have a relationship because all he cares about is the money so he can go. We also see the older son not caring about the relationship because if we look at it, he only cares about the money too. He's trying to get the inheritance. He's trying to just be that good, faithful son that stays with the father and, hopefully inherits all that money one day. But really, at the end of it, he doesn't care about his brother. He doesn't care about his father. He's only looking out for himself. So really the younger and older brother they're both in the same place, aren't they? They're both lost. And I think that's the point Jesus is making here, that there is no state of sinfulness that we can ever get to where we're outside of the grace of God. And yet at the same time, religiosity does not equate with a relationship with God. The religious lifestyle and the reckless living lifestyle leads to the same place of spiritual bankruptcy. But Jesus gives us a third route, doesn't he? The route of the Father, the route of grace. I consider the Father, how he went out to the younger son and went out to the older son. And didn't God do that for us too on the cross? He went out for us. He came out from his dwelling in heaven to become man, suffer and die on a cross, rise again. So then, just like the younger son, our sin can be covered. Our shame can be covered. And he offers that to the older son too, by the ways. He offers that to all people. And so let's be encouraged and reminded by that today, that is the core of the message that we're about here at church, the gospel message of grace through faith in Jesus. So thank you all very much, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.